Good morning on this May the 28th, 2025. I have a long musing percolating in me today. Hopefully it doesn't take an hour, but it might be longer. It might be 15-20 minutes for me to capture everything and string it together. Let's talk about our world view. What shapes our world view? It's the unconscious, unseen energies that are generated by our subconscious beliefs, and everything is derived from belief. And we are evolving in our awareness. We have gone from the total awareness of hell, or the lower chakras in our body, the existential chakras, the existential threat, because humanity historically has been living with so many threat factors, survival factors, right? So our energy down in the root chakra, in the survival chakra, is really active, really strong. This energy creates a hertz frequency, a bandwidth frequency that shapes the picture on our internal television screen, or it shapes the signal on the radio broadcast that we listen to, that we function in, right? Your root chakra, and I would say, you know, the chakra system is just a fancy name for our nervous system. And somebody has identified the frequencies, different frequencies at which we spin. And if we're not spinning from the higher dimensions, these are really, the chakras really are your dimensions. All this talk about multiple dimensions, that's your chakra system and your meridian system, as depicted by the Kabbalistic Sephirot, the tree of life, with all the different spheres or dimensions that exist in the human body. But I like to just use simple terms, the regulation of your nervous system. And most people live from the lower spheres, the lower dimensions of fight or flight, survival, warding off threats. And that energy has a specific frequency that, like I said, will create the picture on your internal television screen or radio broadband. And it will have an energy of doom and gloom. And your world view is going to be shaped by this doom and gloom frequency. And I was thinking, how can I put this in context? I have friends who talk about, you know, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and how they are concerned about the 2030 agenda of you will own nothing and be happy. I've looked at this and taken into consideration the different frequencies. Like, I am spinning on the upper wheels above my solar plexus chakra. I'm spinning in the heart chakra. I'm spinning in the throat chakra. I'm spinning in my third eye chakra. And my crown chakra wheel is spinning pretty regularly. And so I have introduced a whole level of other frequencies, bandwidth frequencies, hertz frequencies, that shape my worldview. And how can I apply this now to the World Economic Forum's agenda of 2030? You will own nothing and be happy. Believe it or not, as I am ascending from the existential threat energies in my lower chakras of constantly being in survival, constantly having to be on alert to make sure I survive. I'm no longer in those frequencies at all. And so my world view has changed to a more neutral world view. And as I raised myself in this consciousness, in this awareness that is able to perceive a more peaceful, harmonious reality, the World Economic Forum agenda doesn't actually scare me anymore, because my body is not generating from the lower existential chakras anymore. I see and feel, actually, I probably would be happy not owning anything, because there is so much work and effort tied into maintaining the stuff that you own. And the more conscious I become, the more minimalist I actually would like to be. I would like to have a tiny home, right? Just my little space that I can maintain without having a big property like this. They pay me $2,000 a month just to maintain this property here. And it's a lot of work. If I had to do that for myself because I own this property, I wouldn't be able to enjoy it, because I'd be working every day, working my little hiney off, trying to keep up with nature. It's a lot of work. And like I said, as I have ascended into a more self-regulated, peaceful, harmonious frequencies within me, the chase energies and the need to have and own things no longer exist in me, right? What really do you need to own? Why do we want to own and possess things? It's all driven by the energy of consumption and this need of securing our existence, securing our safety, right? To secure our life. But do you have to have possessions, all of these possessions, or can you just live on a use basis, right? So, to bring my point back, the World Economic Forum agenda can be terrifying to people if you are operating on a frequency of survival and you feel constantly threatened that someone is going to take away your security. So you're going to have a world view of doom and gloom. You're going to see that the government is out to get you and want to take your stuff and impoverish you. I don't see that. In fact, for the first time, I am beginning to see that, the government, no, it's not perfect, but the perfection depends on perception too. And for the first time, I actually feel proud of the Canadian politics with Mark Carney and the Liberal agenda, I think we've experienced a big turnaround, and maybe consciousness is seeping into government now. I actually feel hopeful that maybe Canada is going to get their shit together, and we can't ever get rid of the system or politics. You know, these are structures that we have inherited over thousands of years, and there's no person alive today that can change this overnight. We have to change it all together, and we're all in this together, in the good and in the bad, and nobody specifically set this up to harm us. We're all evolving with the system, within the system, and we're trying to learn how to make it work for everybody. That's a humongous task, and I feel we have help now because humanity is becoming more conscious, more self-aware, and more empathetic. We see what we need to support one another. And I think Canadian politics is heading in a good direction. And I suppose we could thank Donald Trump for that, for scaring the shit out of us, so that all politicians are finally aligning to the same agenda. And that is, how can we help Canadians? You know, how can we help each other interprovincially and make this country work better? So it's a good, hopeful start. I feel very optimistic. But again, to bring my point back, your unique world view and perspective is created by the hertz frequencies that are churning in your chakras, in your nervous system. If your nervous system is so dysregulated that everything spooks and scares and terrifies you, you're going to live in a state of vigilance, and you're always going to look at the news stories and filter them through this threat alert level lens, and you're always going to see the boogeyman, right? You're always going to see how something might harm you, and that is the world that you create for yourself. You're drawing, you're projecting your inner energy onto the outer world that appears for you. So this is how you create your reality in the unseen realms of energy and consciousness. And straighten out your belief systems. Ask yourself, what exactly are you afraid of? What terrifies you? Do you have the programming of your ancestors, of the dirty 30s, of the depression years, living with lack? Are you still projecting from that? Are you still fearful about that? I am, after 30 years, I'm cleaning out old food stores, because my mom and me, we were always living in the lower frequency of the lower chakras of survival, and my mom had, of course, the World War II programming in her DNA, and she passed it on to me, and so hoarding and preparing was in the blood. But I am here to break that pattern. Besides these food things, groceries being really old and no good anymore, it's the idea behind it. I am not preparing for a future of disaster anymore. I don't give that reality any more energy. In fact, I live from an awareness that I will always be taken care of. I don't know how, I just know that I will be. And this positive, optimistic energy, thankful energy, is going to ensure that that is the reality that I create for myself. But that is only possible if we have transmuted and dissolved the faulty scarcity beliefs that were passed on to us through trauma. And we clear those beliefs and create new beliefs, like I just explained. I refuse to live in scarcity. I refuse to prepare for disaster. I am not drawing in disasters for my life. I know I am very well taken care of because of the energy that I am projecting out there. Because what I project, what you project, like on a conveyor belt, an infinity loop, it always comes back around to you. And that's what creates our reality. So I hope this makes sense. This was 15 minutes of trying to explain something really complex. Please fill your day with gratitude. There's always something to be grateful for. And as you do that, if you begin to focus on things that are lovely and you feel the gratitude, it will raise your consciousness. It will raise your vibrations, and you too can create a reality that you can be grateful for every day. Have a wonderful day.